Query rewriting is a step where a system quietly rewrites your question before it ever reaches a search engine or a vector database. In this video, we'll cover three things: why your raw question is often not the best search query, how a system rewrites it step by step, and what can go wrong even after rewriting. Welcome to Scovia, where we make AI concepts feel like everyday ideas. Let's start with how retrieval normally works. You ask a question, and the system searches a knowledge base. It finds relevant chunks of text. It hands those chunks to the model. The model answers using that context. If you're unfamiliar with retrieval itself, we covered the basics in our earlier video on Retrieval-Augmented Generation. A link is in the description. That pipeline sounds simple. Search the question, get the answer. But here's the catch. The question you type is built for a human conversation, not for a search index. Think about how people actually talk to chatbots. What about the second one? Can you compare it to last year? Is that still true? These questions make perfect sense in a conversation. They make almost no sense as a standalone search query. It, that, the second one, even a good vector search has nothing to embed there. Those words don't carry much meaning on their own. Now take a different kind of problem. A single, very normal sounding question. How does pricing and onboarding time compare between the basic and pro plans? Nothing here is ambiguous, but the sentence is doing four things at once: basic plan pricing, pro plan pricing, basic plan onboarding, and pro plan onboarding, all folded into one query. A vector search turns that whole sentence into a single embedding, which ends up as a blurry average of all four ideas at once. It's not strongly any of them. So you might retrieve a chunk that's vaguely about pricing or vaguely about onboarding and miss the one document that precisely answers pro plan onboarding time, because that specific idea never got to speak clearly on its own. That's the gap query rewriting exists to close. It's not about bad wording, it's about missing context and the crowded intent. Let's walk through this with one running example. Imagine a customer support assistant for an online retailer. The conversation so far looks like this. Now here, step one is to resolve the reference before anything gets searched. The system looks at "what about returns?" and realizes this sentence is incomplete on its own. It depends on the previous turn. So the first job of query rewriting is reference resolution, figuring out what it, that, or what about X are actually pointing to. Using the conversation history, the system expands the question into something a search index could actually use. What is the return policy for the Aurora jacket shipped to Canada? Notice what happened here. Nothing new was invented. The system just made explicit what was already implied by the conversation. Step two is to close the vocabulary gap. Now, suppose a different customer asks something perfectly self contained, like, "Can I send something back if I changed my mind?" There's no missing reference here, but there's a different mismatch. The customer is speaking casually. The actual policy document in the knowledge base is titled as Returns and Refunds Eligibility Policy, which is in a formal, legal sounding language. A vector search embeds both the question and the documents into the same space and looks for what's close together. But changed by mind and returns and refunds eligibility don't always land close together, even though they may kind of mean the same thing. So the system rewrites the casual question into something closer to how the answer is actually phrased. Return policy for change of mind purchases. Same intent, but closer phrasing to the document. Better odds that the two vectors will land near each other. Step 3 is to decompose if the question is really several questions. Sometimes the issue isn't a missing reference or a wording mismatch. It's that one sentence is doing the work of several questions. Take the plan comparison example from earlier. How does pricing and support compare between the basic and pro plans? This can be split into smaller single purpose queries like basic plan pricing, pro plan pricing, basic plan support, and pro plan support. Each smaller query gets searched separately, and the results get combined later. This is sometimes called query decomposition. And it's especially useful when one question is really several questions wearing a trench coat. Step 4 is to expand into multiple angles. And this solves a different problem entirely. What if a single well formed rewrite still isn't guaranteed to retrieve the right thing? A 2024 research paper on multi query rewriting found that generating just one rewritten query often isn't enough. Different rewrites surface different documents, and relying on a single phrasing can miss relevant results entirely. Their fix was to generate several diverse rewrites of the same question and search with all of them, and then merge and re rank what comes back. One of the most surprising versions of this is something that the same line of research calls pseudo answer rewriting, better known by its original name, HyDE. Instead of rewriting the question into a better question, the system asks the model to hallucinate a fake answer, a plausible sounding paragraph that might be the real answer, and then it searches using that instead. The logic is a little counterintuitive. An answer shaped piece of text tends to sit closer in vector space to the real answer than the original question ever did, even when the fake answer gets the facts wrong. So, for our return policy example, the system might generate customers can return items within 30 days of purchase for a full refund, provided the item is unworn and in original packaging. That sentence is invented, but it's shaped like the document we were hoping to find, and that shape is often what gets the retrieval right. Step 5 is to send the rewritten queries to retrieval. Only now does the actual search happen. A handful of diverse expansions gets embedded and matched against the knowledge base, and the results get merged. The retrieved chunks then go back to the model along with the original conversation so the model can answer naturally even though the search behind the scenes looked nothing like the original question. Query rewriting is the translation layer between how humans ask questions and how retrieval systems expect to receive them. But this translation isn't free. Each rewrite usually means an extra call to a language model before retrieval even starts. Generating multiple rewrites, as the research above does, means multiple retrieval calls and a re-ranking step on top. That adds latency, cost, and if a rewrite goes wrong, like if the system resolves it to the wrong product or a pseudo answer hallucinates the wrong policy entirely, the retrieval step inherits that mistake and searches the wrong thing with full confidence. So there's a real trade off here. Skip rewriting and you retrieve based on messy, ambiguous conversational language. Rewrite aggressively across multiple strategies and you add latency, cost, and several new places for errors to creep in. Most production systems land somewhere in between, resolving references and closing vocabulary gaps by default, and reaching by decomposition or by doing multi query expansion only when a question is unusually broad or the stakes of missing a document are high. So that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on Scovia. Please subscribe to Scovia Labs for more eye opening stories and insights. And as always, stay curious.